Hey guys, you're watching Gregorio Girls Makeup. If you're new, my name's Shauna and I run this channel with my sister Devin. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the Makeup Revolution Shook palette. So if you are interested on hearing my thoughts on this palette and how to get this look right here, just keep on watching. So getting started, first let's just kind of take a look at the packaging and the palette as a whole. Here it is. So first off, it is a little bit bulky. It doesn't feel like very sturdy. Like it definitely feels kind of cheap, which is fine. This is an affordable makeup brand. I don't know that that like totally bothers me, but just so you guys know, the packaging doesn't feel overly well made. So here's what it looks like inside. I think the colors are really pretty. I really like, you know, the range of colors that you get in this. Now the majority of the colors are in a smaller pan than these ones, obviously. So obviously these are a bit bigger than the average eyeshadow pan, but these ones are a bit smaller. Again, which is fine. I don't really have strong feelings about it one way or another. I like that a lot of the transition and like highlight shades are a bit bigger because those are the shades that you're gonna dip into the most. So I kind of have neutral feelings about the eyeshadow pans, but just thought I would mention it. Now when this came in the mail, there wasn't a film over it, so this is like a little bit, so the pan is like a little bit dirty. I don't know if you can see it on camera. And then the mirror, I'm gonna try not to like blind you. Ooh, good job. Okay, let me just kind of hold it back here. Is a little bit foggy. Again, I'm not going to hold it right up to the camera because I don't want to blind you guys with the reflection of my lights. But it's a little bit foggy, and again, there was no protection put on there, so there are some scratches in the mirror as well. The palette's just kind of big and bulky in and of itself, so I don't know that I would hold it up to do my makeup. I'm definitely probably going to hold up my Blushing in Bali palette or something just a little bit smaller for the mirror. So overall, just at the beginning, I'm not in love with the packaging, but I'm excited to play with the shadows. Alright, so I've zoomed you guys in. I did put a little bit of my Too Faced Born This Way powder under my eyes, again, just because this is obviously the first time I'm using this palette since it is a review, so I'm not sure if there's going to be a ton of fallout, and I already have my base done, so I just want to make sure we're protected either way. Also, this palette kind of has a smell. I don't know if that would bother anybody. I consider myself relatively sensitive to smell, and this smells kind of like, I don't know, it smells like chemically or plasticky or something weird, and I'm not a big fan. It is kind of like messing with my senses a little bit. I'm not a big fan of that. If you're highly sensitive to smell, I would just be aware of that if you're thinking of purchasing this palette. Okay, so first I think we just want to go in with Idealistic right here. I'm going to take that on my Morphe M535 brush. Alright, so just so you guys see, there is some kickback when you, I don't know if you can see any of that, but there is some kickback when you dip in, so just be mindful of that. So that blended pretty well. I think I really like the pigment that it came out with. And I also think I did forget to mention that I did prime and set my eyes beforehand. So just make sure that you do that before you go in with the first shade. And actually I think I want to make this a halo eye, so I want to go in with that same color just on a bit of a smaller brush, just so that I can get into the inner corner of my eye. So I'm going to take the Morphe M518 brush and just kind of like tilt my head, shut my eye, and then kind of just pack this right in there, just so we can kind of start building that halo look. Next, I'm going to go in with Sidetracked. I'm going to take that on my Morphe M441 brush. Just start building that same shape. So I'm going to push it right into the outer corner. Grab some more and push it into my inner corner. And then as I have a little bit less product on the brush, I'm going to go ahead, blend through and connect it. I feel like on camera it's picking up a little bit patchy. It doesn't look that patchy in person. It looks like it really does have a nice pigment. So if you are watching this and it is looking a little bit patchy to you, I would say I'm pretty happy with the pigment and the blendability of the shadows. They're not the best shadows that I've ever used, but I think they're performing pretty well. And then I'm gonna go back in with that M518 brush just to make sure that first initial color is still peeking out. All right, so again, just repeating that process of building the color in the halo-like shape. I'm gonna go in with Topic right here. Now, since this color is moving into more of those darker ranges, I'm gonna take smaller brushes because I want this to kind of define the very outer and inner corners of my eyes and right tight in the crease. So first, I think I'm gonna start out with my Morphe M506 and see how that kind of goes. So again, just kind of pressing, but this one I'm gonna focus really far on the outer corner. Again, making sure I'm not going too low down here. I want to keep my eyeshadow up high so that my eye always looks lifted and not droopy. So take a little bit of this color at a time and really build it up. And this is really nice and pigmented, so I really only have to do a few presses to get the intensity that I want. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then when there's, most of the product has been deposited, just kind of take your brush and with really light pressure, go ahead and connect it right through your crease. But yeah, so far guys, I'm really liking how these shadows are performing. Again, they're not the best shadows that I've ever used, but I do think they are really nice and pigmented and they're really not hard to blend out. So I am really liking this palette so far, despite my kind of qualms with the packaging. All right, so next I want to see how these shimmer shades are going to perform. So I think the easiest way for this look to apply these is going to be with my fingers. So let's go ahead and dip into Nightclub right here. And in my review videos, I don't like to put down my trusty Too Faced glitter glue. I don't like to spray them with any type of setting spray. I just want to see how they perform by themselves and see how foiled and metallic they truly are alone. So I'm not going to cover the full middle with this shade. I'm still going to press it just to the sides of the center of my lid. So this shade's nice and creamy, but it doesn't look overly metallic. I'm not blown away by the shimmeriness of it. So maybe on the other eye, I'll put down some Too Faced glitter glue and we'll see if that enhances it anymore. And then I'm just going to go in with a clean brush just to make sure, because I got some a little bit too high. So I just want to blend that so that I don't have any harsh lines of that shimmer shadow. Alright, so on my other eye, I'm going to take a little bit of this Too Faced glitter glue. And I'm just going to press this all around the center of my eye where I'm going to put my shimmer shades. And that way we can see how they perform with the shadow primer versus just on their own. Alright, so taking more of a Nightclub. So I don't know if it reads on camera, but compared to the other eye, this kind of looks a little bit more faded and just not as intense. This side, once I put it over that Too Faced glitter primer, looks just a little bit more intense, a little bit more metallic, and a little bit more how I'd like it to look. So next for our halo shade, I want to go in with Rumor right here. And then again, first just taking it on my right eye by itself with no added help, no Fix Plus, no Too Faced primer. So I think that looks really pretty, but I have a feeling it's just gonna look that much better when I apply it on this eye next. Yeah, that looks way more intense and way more how a halo eye should look. So you can tell this eye is looking a little bit dull compared to this eye. But overall, the shadows themselves, just when you dip your fingers into them, really do feel really nice and buttery and creamy. So I think this palette is still really nice. The shadow quality is still there. I just think with the shimmers especially, you could always just use that added kick. If I had to compare it to another palette, so I recently just reviewed the BH Cosmetics Love in London palette, I feel like those shimmers really kind of packed a punch even without the extra help of a setting spray or of my Too Faced primer. I feel like they still looked really good and really wet. I feel like these shimmers in this palette look a little bit more dull. They just need a little bit of added help. So next, let's move to the lower lash line. So I'm gonna go ahead and just swipe this extra powder away. I didn't get too much fallout as it was, even with the darker shades. There was a lot of kickback when I tapped my brush, but as far as the application, even the darker shades, they didn't really flake off or fall off onto my setting powder, so that's a good thing if you don't like shadows that have fallout. Next, we're gonna jump to our lower lash line. So I'm gonna go back in with Idealistic right here. This was the first shade that we started out with. And then I'm gonna take that again just on that same Morphe M518 brush. I'm just gonna hold my mirror up, look up, and smoke that kind of messily along my lash line. All right, so I kind of feel like with this shade in particular, I do have to add a little bit more to get the intensity of color that I want. It feels like a lot of the pigment, it feels like I have to dip into the pan a lot, and then a lot of the pigment sticks to my brush rather than being transferred to my lid and my under eye. I feel like that's the only flaw with the shadows that I've found so far, and it's just that color. I'll have to play around with the palette more to see if there's any more colors like that. But yeah, it just feels like a lot of the pigment is still on my brush rather than on my eye. And then next, as I'm sure you guessed, we're just kind of going down the line of all the colors that we already used. So we're gonna dip back into Sidetracked on that same M441 brush. Again, and I'm just kind of making this really sloppy and smoky. And then I think I want to take that color again and have it a little bit more concentrated. So I'm going to take it on a denser brush. This is the Morphe E18 brush. And just make sure I'm kind of connected out here on the outer corner from the top lid to my lash line. And then I think I'm just going to take some of this shade right here called Chic and just highlight under my brow bone as well. Alright, so I'm just going to hop off camera and do my lashes and my lips, and then I will be right back to give you my final thoughts on this palette. Alright, so I'm back. I did my lashes and my lips. On this eye, the glue is still drying, so please excuse that. But final thoughts on the Makeup Revolution Shook palette. In the beginning, I said, you know, I'm not a big fan of this packaging. The packaging itself feels a little cheap. The mirror is kind of foggy, and mine is like a little bit nicked. And then the palette itself kind of has a chemical-y smell to it, which I'm not loving. But the shadows themselves, I actually think are pretty good. Are they the best shadows that I've ever used in my life? No. I do think they are really good for an affordable palette. I think the mattes are really easy to blend. I think they're very pigmented. The only one that I had trouble with that I used so far today was this one, and it really wasn't even that big of a deal. I just kind of had to work with it a little bit more to give it that intensity that I wanted it. And the shimmers are okay, they're just a little bit dull to me. So if you want to purchase this palette, I would totally recommend that you spray your shimmers with a setting spray, or you use something like the NYX glitter primer or the Too Faced glitter glue to put down as a tacky base for it to stick to before you apply it. And I realized in the beginning I totally forgot to say how much the palette actually costs. So it was retailing for $20. Right now on their website, it is actually marked down to $14. So I would say if you are interested in trying this palette, you totally should, since it's marked down already on the website for $14. And you get a lot of shades, and I think they are pretty decent quality if you're interested. Is this a palette that I think that you absolutely need to have? No. I think there are palettes out there that are better quality. So that is it for this review. Definitely let us know if you guys decide to check out this palette, or if you have it, how you like it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Devin and I have tons of reviews and tutorials coming for you in March, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those. If you liked this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to follow Devin and I on Instagram. I'm at Seanna Greggs and Devin is at DevDevGreggs, and we will see you in our next video.